While he's setting up, I'll just kind of do the introduction here. I'm Dr. Tracy Norman, Superintendent, and tonight I'll be presenting the Superintendent's budget recommendation. And you've already heard from the different departments, the directors, the principals. So tonight is more of a summary of what you've already heard at a much more global level. And we'll work through each slide. Okay, for next year, 2026-27, these are our budget focus areas. You see that we're focusing on student, staff, and the family experience. Starting with the student experience, we want to continue offering high-level AP courses to our students, ensuring that our students have access to all of our courses, meaning that if we have to expand some, this focus would encompass that. We also want to bolster our SEALs. We're doing great work with our Civic Seal of Readiness, Seal of Biliteracy, but I'm happy to say that we're going to add an art seal, which is a pathway. And then the extracurriculars, we're constantly looking at that, and we want to provide students experiences beyond the traditional day or classroom. And sometimes, depending on what's happening and what the need is, we have to create some of those opportunities. And then our athletics. We always want to maintain our competitive edge and give people something to feel proud about. But you can't support students if you don't focus on staff. So with the staff experience, we're going to provide optimal professional development, and I would say continue, because we started that this year, for all of our employees. Anyone who touches students, which are all of our employees, kitchen, clerical, custodian, bus drivers, our focus is to provide them optimal professional development. And sometimes that would come in different forms. Sometimes it's virtual, sometimes it's bringing in consultants. As you'll note, we're working with Generation Ready, who has done phenomenal work with our Strategic Planning Committee. We have Dr. Joe Durney, who's just a tremendous consultant working directly with our administrators, and also our BOCES reps and their services. Lastly, the family experience. I hope the public is seeing the work that started with our capital project progress. We are in the process of reconstructing our tennis courts, adding softball lighting to our fields. Some people are asking for pickleball. But, we're going to continue that work into next year. We're going to start doing work on the field house or concession stand. That will be resurrected next year. And then we have work going on that involves our facilities and school upgrades that might not be as cosmetically appealing, but nevertheless equally important. And this is our HVAC systems, our boilers, our roofing, and those sorts of things. So the bottom line is we want people that frequent our spaces to feel proud and feel a sense of pride when they are interacting and occupying our spaces. Next slide. So what you're seeing here is what New York State calls Portrait of a Graduate. And New York State has spent the last several years creating this, and I just want to take pause and commend Dr. Hassler and his team for the work that he's already began on this. And what that work consists of, the state is saying in each of these areas, if you are a graduate of New York State Public School, you are to be competent in each of these areas. So we asked the question here, what does a portrait of a graduate look like for Monroe-Woodbury? And Dr. Hassler has began that work, and I look forward to presenting that to the public here. But he has gained input from multiple stakeholders, and he's still in that process, and we have a draft of what it does look like for Monroe-Woodbury. He's spoken with teachers, administrators, students have given input. So from a budget perspective, if you look at the block global citizen, if we are to make students competent in that might include looking at existing coursework, we might have to tweak it. We might have to add courses to meet those needs. But nevertheless, that will come with professional development or some sort of subtle cost. I can tell you that one of the pushes is to expose students to local industries, and we want them to partner and give them those experiences, whether it's volunteering or working co-op directly. But that could come with a subtle cost of maybe transportation or so on and so forth. But this is important work that we look forward to sharing in the near future. Next slide. So this is the important slide. The 2026-27 tax cap. What you're looking at, and I don't want to overwhelm the public here, but these are the steps that are involved in calculating the tax cap. In 2011, the state enacted laws that says districts cannot exceed the state-imposed tax cap unless we receive 60% plus one voter approval. So if I can focus you to the middle of the screen, maybe the fifth or sixth bullet, you see allowable growth factor, which is 2%, which means that we cannot go beyond 2%. However, CPI, which is the measurement of inflation, is 2.63%. But yet we are capped at an allowable growth factor of 2%. So that's some of the frustrations that districts have had with trying to manage the tax cap. So I want to focus you to the bottom right corner last year, where you see the tax cap was 3.55%. And at the bottom, our tax levy was 1.5%. This year, the tax cap is 2.86%, which is lower, yet we know that inflation has historically risen. We are proposing a tax levy increase of 1.95%, which is the seventh year in a row that Monroe-Woodbury has been well below the tax cap. So that is a great thing, and I want to point that out to the public, that our business department doing a great job of managing these numbers. Next slide. So here you're looking at the state aid and the tax levy. So we are projecting a state aid increase of approximately $5.7 million, which is driven primarily by the increase in foundation aid of $3 million. So our recommendation for the tax levy is $135.9 million, which again is a 1.95% levy, which again is well below the tax cap. Next slide. This is just a graphic for you to easily read and follow. You'll note that the majority of our state aid is 6 to 8%, and the second largest category comes in transportation, which is 18%. And you can see the other areas where we receive state aid, which are a little less significant, but nevertheless important. Next slide. This is our revenue by category. So what I'll point out here is if you look in the green, you see the tax levy in 2025-26. The tax levy was 56.3% of our revenue. We are recommending for this year 55.5% of the revenue. However, if you look to the right and you see the state aid in the blue, last year it was 40% of our revenue. Next year, 2026-27, we're projecting the state aid at 41%. Approximately 10 years ago, the state aid was 28 to 30% of our revenue. Every year it's slowly gone up, and the tax levy has slowly decreased. which is a good thing for our tax level, meaning that the more aid that we get, the lesser the burden for the taxpayer. So we're trending in the right direction there, and hopefully state aid continues to grow, and we can manage the tax levy through that process. Next slide. So for Proposition 1, we're recommending a total general fund budget of $245,052,094. I will ask Mr. Cahill to speak on Proposition 2, which involves the Sapphire Elementary School roof replacement.
Okay. So, so this year we're adding a Proposition 2, which is a capital project to replace the roof at Sapphire Elementary School. And as I mentioned previously, in New York State, capital projects require the approval, authorization of the taxpayers, as does the use of a capital reserve fund. So, long story short, or bottom line up front, the roof at Sapphire is past its useful life. It was originally included in our 2022 capital referendum. We had to eliminate that to decrease the referendum amount. We had a really bad winter, as we all know. We've patched the roof numerous times. We continue to have roof leaks, and when we evaluated it more recently because of our current building condition survey, we realized we couldn't wait any longer. It's something that needs to happen as soon as possible. And even with a May approval date, we still won't be able to do this because of the long lead times involved with New York State Education Department until the summer of 2027. So it is a need to have, not a nice to have at this point. The good news about it from a financing standpoint, we're estimating the cost of the project at $2.6 million. We're intend to use $549,000 of New York State Excel aid. And New York State Excel aid stands for Expanding Our Children's Education and Learning. It is a one-time capital funding program which was created in 2006. So that is the remaining bit of funding for Monroe-Woodbury. So we're going to draw that down. And we intend to use a little over $2 million of the capital reserve to fund the balance of that. So the capital reserve fund, we have about $4 million unencumbered, which we put into the reserve at the end of the 24-25 year with this literal project in mind. This was one of the projects that we had in mind to do. Originally, I was thinking we would seek the authorization next year, but as I said, new information came to light and we can't wait. So good news is no tax impact because we're using existing reserve. We're using this Excel money. And the other thing I would point out is, although we're using our reserve funds now, we will receive almost like a reimbursement or repayment of the reserve over the next 15 years through the building aid program. And I don't want to get too wonky, but the funny part about Excel is you can receive building aid on the Excel aid, which is rare. It's a double dip opportunity. So in essence, depending on where the total cost comes in, we may get 80 to 100% return of the use of our reserve over time. So it is the time to do it, and it's a necessary project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next slide. Okay, so here you're looking at a 10-year snapshot of the budget-to-budget percent change dating back to 2017. You'll note starting at 2021, you see the spike. That's near the COVID years where inflation jumped and the budget year was adjusted to that. But over the past 10 years, the actual budget change has averaged 4.06%, and we are at 3.5%, which is below that average for this year. And this is similar to the previous slide. This is a 10-year snapshot of the actual tax levy change dating back to 2017, and you see the spike, and the downward spike in 2023. But if you compare the average to the past 10 years, believe it or not, it comes out to 1.95% which is exactly what we are proposing as our tax level, meaning that we are within the 10-year average with 1.95%. So I have to share this slide. It's law, but it is the contingent budget rules. And what this is saying, if this budget does not receive voter approval, then we have to go to contingency budget, which means the budget limits districts to the amount of the prior year tax levy with mandatory budget reductions. So you'll see that number at the top there. Bottom line is, if we do not receive voter approval for this budget, we would have to make up $2.6 million. It is the law. So, next slide. So we're asking the public to get involved. You come out and vote. These are the actual dates. April 21st, we have our budget adoption, and you see there May 19th is our annual budget vote at Central Valley Elementary. Slide. Subject to your questions, this concludes my presentation.
Questions?
I have none.
Thank you for the presentation.